Hello, and welcome back to the Belly Up Football Podcast. I am your host, Alex Mashford, joined, as always, by Kendrick, and today we're also joined by Andrew. How are you guys doing today?
I have been up since 4 in the morning. So this has been a day. It's now 11:30, so I've already
Yeah.
been up for about 4 or
You-
7 hours.
You've already had a full day, pretty much.
Yeah, it's not great. I'm gonna go to the gym after this though. Gonna hopefully wake myself up and then I'm gonna conk out. So living life.
I feel that. I was working until about 1:30 last night, and then promptly woke up about 5 with the kids, and here we are. It's 2:30 East Coast time though, so that's where I'm at with my day.
I just finished finals on Wednesday, all remote, and we'll just hope we get those good grades back. But we have a lot of NFL news to discuss. Of course, there's also a lot of on the field news, but again, there's also a lot of off the field news with COVID outbreaks and the Urban Meyer news. We'll get to all those things in a second here. But before I get started with all that, I want to tell you guys, for all of your sports needs, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, anything, check out bellyupsports.com for fantastic articles and pieces written by everybody over there. And of course, check out the rest of the podcast on the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network as well. And nobody's got you covered for football on Sunday, like Belly Up Sports, starting with the pre-games at 8 a.m., taking you all the way up till pretty much kickoff, I think around noon Eastern time or around 1. But we're going to be having a lot of different NFL games this week. But let's talk about the game last night, the Thursday Night Football game, which lived up to the hype between Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, the Chargers, the Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of different narratives out there. What was Brandon Staley doing going forward on fourth down? We'll discuss that. But let's start with the Chiefs side of it, guys. The Chiefs are back to being the number one seed in the AFC overall period. And now they can be dethroned if the Patriots win tomorrow, I believe, against the Indianapolis Colts. But regardless, at worst, they are the 2 seed in the AFC. And this was a team that when they were starting 3-4, that some people were saying we're going to miss the playoffs. Kendrick, I'll start with you. How convinced are you that the Chiefs are truly the best team in the AFC after last night's performance against the Chargers?
I'm not, because I thought the Chargers thoroughly outplayed them throughout the majority of the game until the last 10 minutes of the game when Mahomes was 10 of 13 for 190 yards and 3 touchdowns with no picks.
Yeah.
The Chiefs looked like a very average team, and the Chargers, people need to understand, look, they were going for it on fourth down. I'm totally fine with it. If they get the fourth downs and obviously they get the touchdowns, then we all just sit back and we go, oh my God, the Chargers are just so great. But because they don't get it, people kill them for it. And it makes sense though why they do it. And they do it because the Chiefs did what they did in those 10 minutes, because we've seen them be down 24 and then score 40 plus unanswered. The players are still there. The offense has just needed to adjust to teams constantly playing too high, and I thought that's what the Chiefs did. The Chiefs, they adjusted to playing to the Chargers, especially playing too high. The Raiders are the Raiders, and they, for whatever reason, refuse to play too high. But what I thought they did really well is that instead of throwing it down the field, just dump it off to Tyreek, who's only like 5 yards ahead, and let his speed just go get the first down. Dump it off to your running back. Dump it off to Travis Kelce. Like, I thought the Chiefs made really good adjustments. So, I think that still, when they're right, I think their offense is the best, probably in the AFC. But given this game, it didn't really take this game for me it didn't change at least what I think. I think that it showed that they have adjusted and that Mahomes is learning to go ahead and take the check down. It's okay to get 5 yards rather than looking for the 20-yard play. But the best team, no, I thought the Chargers outplayed them the majority of the game.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Chiefs are on their way back to being the best. I think like you said, in that last 10 minutes, I think we saw the glimpse of what we're used to seeing. But I remember in the first half saying, that the Chiefs got off to a slow start. And yeah, they were up 10-0 to start the game. But look, for the Chiefs standards, the way they were playing in that first half, just by the eye test, that was a slow start for them. The Chargers kept giving, the Chargers were up 13-10, 14-13, I think it was actually. And they just kept turning the ball over. They're missing fourth down conversions from within the 5. They're trying to give the game to the Chiefs. And in the past, and you do that to Patrick Mahomes, he kills you for it. That's when he goes on his 40 unanswered point runs. And the Chiefs weren't doing that for the majority of the game last night. And at one point, I even tweeted out saying, after that awful throw at the goal line from Mahomes that just went into the ground, I said, is he a choke artist now? Like, what are we looking at here? Because this isn't Mahomes. And
that was probably the throw of his career.
You know what I think it was? And it was, I kept watching it because it was hilarious to watch. But it looked like my first time ever throwing a football in shoulder pads.
It looked like one of those first pitches that the guys do that they hit the cameraman or something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Yeah, it was bad, but we're used to seeing when a team makes a mistake, the Chiefs turning it on and making you pay for it, and they just weren't doing that last night. And they didn't finally make adjustments in that last 10 minutes, and they made it work, and they killed it. But I think the Chargers threw that game away just as much as the Chiefs won it in the last 10 minutes. I think it was a messy game, but I think the Chiefs are on their way back. But honestly, I agree. I think the Chargers are still better than them. I think right now, as I would take the Chargers in another game. I might even take the Colts in another game against them because I think the Colts defense is playing well, but the Chiefs are on their way back.
So I agree with you guys that the Chiefs are maybe not like the consensus number one, but I just don't trust another AFC team to get it figured out before they do. Like their defense is playing well enough right now where that if Mahomes got hot again, even for a 4-week stretch, I don't know who could beat them.
It is.
Right? And Lamar's dealing with injury. And I do like the Colts a lot, but I don't know what Carson Wentz is going to look like in the playoffs. I don't know how they're going to look tomorrow against the Patriots, right? I like the Patriots roster. I like their game plan. I don't know if I can trust Mac Jones to beat Patrick Mahomes. God forbid if the score gets into the 30s or something like that, which, again, the Patriots defense is stellar, but we don't know that. And, again, teams like the Bengals, teams like the Chargers. And, again, the thing with the Chargers is that was just so Chargers last night. Like, we've been hearing all year that, no, this is different for the Chargers. We do things differently now. We don't choke games. And that's exactly what they did, except in just choking it in the fourth quarter, they literally choked it from the get-go. Like, fourth quarter, not getting any conversions on fourth down, not capitalizing in the red zone. And I don't even hate what Brandon Staley was doing because that offense is loaded. I understand what he's saying.
Absolutely.
We have these type of players. We have Keenan Allen. We have Mike Williams. We have Jared Cook, who's still a very capable tight end. We have Austin Eckler. We have two stellar offensive linemen, Lindsey the center, and Slater, who wasn't playing last night, obviously. But overall, usually Slater is there. Yeah. And Herbert is a very good quarterback. Like, we cannot deny that, like, as much as I hate to say it as someone who's Dolphins. But, like, he's very good. So I understand what they're going for on fourth down. Do I understand I think there was one specific one where they could have made it a 2-score game. I think it was the 4th and 2 that got batted down. That was the only one where I would have maybe done it, but all the other ones I would have gone on fourth down too. Like, especially with the talent he has. And the thing is with Patrick Mahomes as well, he's not that guy this year, right? This is a down year for him, and he's got over 4,000 yards already, 30 touchdowns, and 30 interceptions. This is like
exactly right. I mean, we're talking about the downfall of Patrick Mahomes, and this guy's
is like a horrible season. He's done. He's washed. He's been figured out. Like, it's over. And they were talking, they figured out Travis Kelce. He's got 10 catches, 190 yards, and literally the game off. Like, I mean, that was ridiculous. They thought they figured out Tyreek Hill too by doubling him. No, doesn't matter. They'll figure out eventually. Like, they'll figure it out eventually. And I don't know if I trust these other teams to figure it out to a level enough where, again, I think the Chiefs at their best are better than any team besides maybe Tampa Bay at their best, which is why they lost to them in the Super Bowl. That's the only one. And again, they've hit so many. Like, that offensive line was off to a poor start at the beginning of the year. Creed Humphrey is a stud, complete stud. Like, I don't know if you guys remember the draft. The pick before, the Green Bay Packers picked Josh Myers, who's a fine player. But they have some offensive line issues this year. And Creed Humphrey, some people say, especially PFF, is like the best center in football this year. And he's like my age. Like, this is ridiculous how
did they draft the best center in the second round in football? I don't even get it.
And the thing is with the Chargers is I like the Chargers. I like Brandon Staley. I like his mentality. The team is so loaded on like, if you just look at the paper, like, again, if you play Madden, look at the Madden ratings. Like, they have guys at every position that are 85 and above, man. Like, just look at it. It's absolutely ridiculous, including the quarterback, who I would say might have the strongest arm in the league. I mean, some of the throws that Justin Herbert makes, I don't even think Mahomes could make it that far.
He's a beast.
Herbert, Allen and Herbert on any given day.
Look, just from a body size standpoint, Herbert is he's a more athletic young Ben Roethlisberger. Like, he's big, you can't take him down, but he can fling the ball down with ease down the field.
And that's the thing. The quarterbacks were obviously the focus last night, but I think it was very telling of the quarterbacks last night. Both of them did their things at their best that everybody loves about them, and both of them did everything at their worst what they hate about them. And if you look, what I did immediately after the game was look at the college profiles for both of them, like draft profiles, and everybody was saying Mahomes is great, but he's too reckless, and he was a little bit reckless last night and missed some easy throws. Everyone said about Justin Herbert, he's super talented, but he does not take a single half mile per hour off the ball, no matter where he's throwing it. The
breaking fingers
was I don't even physically comprehend how you catch that ball. Like, and people are like, oh, I saw somebody on Twitter was like, ask Brett Favre how many fingers he broke, throwing the ball. I think Justin Herbert throws a lot faster than Brett Favre does. And like Keenan Allen can handle it because he's got one of the best hands in the NFL. But like Jared Cook, who's getting up there right now, a missile right here, 5 yards out, like that's a tough play to make. It's a tough thing to hang on to. And I always have categorized Justin Herbert. And again, people call me a Justin Herbert hater, and I understand this. I think he's a thrower, not a passer. He throws the ball well, but in terms of like passing and touch and timing and rhythm, he doesn't have that down. He is like that tight window throw is a fantastic throw. It's incredible. That is all arm talent.
I feel like that's that jealousy. That's that jealousy.
It's
because of the fact that
Keenan Allen tight window throw, which I tweeted out immediately afterward. Like that's a rocket by Justin Herbert. He read that play late. Like Keenan Allen was open 2 seconds earlier, could have hit him earlier. And again, we're nitpicking. It's a football game. I'm sitting in my chair. He's playing with pads and getting hit and like doing everything. But that like it's arm talent. And again, he's fantastic. He's incredible. But like crowning him MVP at the beginning, like after a couple of weeks, they still don't execute in the biggest moments.
They don't. Yeah, the Chargers.
There's a reason why Justin Herbert does not have a winning record in the NFL. It's not because he's not super talented, and it's not because of the talent around him. It's because he still has some pure mechanical issues, which is completely fine. So does Patrick Mahomes. But you see that week to week, you can't dominate every single week like that. You're going to make mistakes. And when you can't overcome that, again, Andy Reid's a fantastic coach. They have Kelsey and Hill, who, despite all of the Chargers' weapons, both of those guys are better than anybody that the Chargers had, right? So I understand why, it's close. But I think it was like they've lost 10 straight at home to Kansas City or something like that. It might have even been 12, they said, or something like that. That's demoralizing. That's what I'm starting to think, like how the Patriots own Buffalo. Like it's a mentality thing. They cannot.
Could we call that a home game for the Chargers last night? Exactly. There was so many Chiefs fans there. All I could hear was Chiefs fans cheering.
That's true.
So here's my couple quick takes on that. Is that the Chargers last night was like a throwback to the Anthony Lynn era. It was just sloppy. Like they didn't seem to have a game plan. They got stuck in the way of, when we get down here in the red zone, we know it's like they were saying from the beginning. We know we're not going to be able to stop Mahomes, so we're going for him fourth down in the red zone every time. But then they turned around and run, like they weren't picking their good plays. They weren't putting the best personnel in there, so it made no sense from that standpoint. Just because it was ballsy to go for it on fourth once doesn't mean it's ballsy and right to do it another time. Like there needs to be more situation IQ football there from the coach. On Mahomes, though, I don't think anybody on the Chiefs roster has necessarily dropped off. Like everyone was crapping on Kelsey and Hill. I think they've been right where they need to be all year for the most part. I mean, they're going to have their week to week every now and then, the ebbs and flows of a season. But I think the biggest problem with the Chiefs has been Mahomes' decision making. It's not his athletic ability. It's not an injury. Like on that, what drove me crazy is on that 2-point conversion. Yes, they converted to Hilaire at the end to tie the game. But the announcers even pointed out, he had wide open guy, easy throw, but he could have kept his feet still. They were both wide open. He had his feet set, and he saw them. He looked at them and looked away. So I don't know why he chose it, but instead he chose to then be flushed out of the pocket with a guy in his face throwing on the run into a tight window between a linebacker and a safety. Like he made it. He's athletic enough to make it, but that's not going to work every time. And I think that's why they have failed a lot of times this season, why we're not seeing the Chiefs run away with this conference.
And I think the play you're referencing, is that the one where he threw the super low ball to Kelsey at the end? There was one play where he scrambled.
No, it was the 2-point conversion to Hilaire at the end.
Right. There was one play, I think it probably was a touchdown, when he rolled out and threw a super low ball to Kelsey, and Kelsey made an incredible gap.
Yeah.
It was his first touchdown. That was like a bad play. He had his first two reads wide open. Hilaire was open in the flat, and Hill was open, or Pringle was open in like the middle of the end zone. Mahomes, it's again, I looked at like the college board thing just to like as a reference. People said he'll go into like scramble mode even when he doesn't have to. And like I harp on Baker Mayfield for doing that all the time, leaving the pocket when you don't have to. Mahomes probably does it double the times that Baker Mayfield does it. Just leaving the pocket, flushing to his right. And again, he can make every throw in the book, so it's hard to tell him, don't do what you do when he does that and throws a bomb 60-yard touchdown to Tyreek Hill or throws that touchdown to Kelsey. It's hard to argue with it. But again, the NFL's a smart league. People figure stuff out, and that's why we've seen a little bit of a slump. But again,
the Chargers need one more offseason. Need one more offseason.
If they get a second, again, I think they're missing Sammy Watkins than people realize. Like they
the
need
Chargers?
a second wide receiver. Oh no, I'm talking about the Chiefs need one more.
Oh, you've seen the Chiefs need one more. Oh.
Yes, they need one more receiver to like really be like what they want to be. Again,
The Chiefs could win the Super Bowl this year.
They could, but I'm saying like in terms of like undisputed week in, week out dynasty level, we're better than everybody. If they had added Odell or something like that.
I mean, sure, but I'm just saying from the Chargers standpoint, I think the Chargers, they need one more offseason. They need to get another edge rusher to complement Joey.
Yeah, they do.
Because he's kind of doing it by himself. I don't know. I think they let Ingram go mainly for cap reasons, and they just didn't re-sign him. But they need help there, and they need help in the secondary.
Yeah, which is so weird because I like their secondary on paper. Like I like
on paper.
I like Derwin James. I like all those guys they have there. But I don't know. And Brandon Staley was a defensive coach, so I thought that the defense would be the strong point of their team. And again, they have players everywhere. But yeah, the offense is really what's been taken to the next level. All right, so on some more, I guess I don't know if you would consider it shocking news, but Urban Meyer was actually fired. So in the latest, again, you've all heard about the numerous things that happened before this week with Urban Meyer calling his coaches losers, the whole thing with the incident at the Ohio State bar, everything of that nature. But recently, I think Josh Lambo, the former kicker for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I don't think he's the kicker there anymore. Said that Urban kicked him in a practice, and the full quote is he said back, because again, this isn't college. These are grown men who have families, who get paid money. This is how they feed their kids. This is how they provide. This isn't like college. This is different. This is the NFL. He said, like, don't ever kick me again. And I think Urban Meyer, I'm paraphrasing here, responded with like, I'll kick you whenever the hell I want. I'm the head football coach. Like, I don't know what Urban Meyer was thinking. I don't know if this was a legalized bank robbery. I don't know if this was objective from the start. But as someone who saw Nick Saban's tenure in Miami, I've seen Chip Kelly in Philadelphia. I've seen, John Gruden recently in Las Vegas. Is this? I'll preface this because we all know it's bad. We all know it's horrible. We all know it's a complete tire fire, laughing stock scenario with Urban Meyer. But is this is how I'll phrase the question. Is this the worst head coaching stint in NFL history?
Ooh.
Is this the worst you've ever seen? Because I'm really starting to think that this might be, just from start to finish.
In recent years, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think how far back we got to go, though, here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about like the bad head coaching stints that I've seen in more recent memory, I mean, I think of like Jim Tom Sula's one year with the 49ers. That was just awful. I think Hugh Jackson with Cleveland was awful. He wasn't in the headlines for getting lap dances, but it was just a bad football team. Yeah. I think about Freddie Kinchin's one year with the Browns. That was a terrible year. Yep. But, from just a standpoint of, from the headlines and just how often Urban Meyer was in headlines for off the field issues and not being a football coach, I think he might go down as a top 5 at least. I can't go back super far. Yeah. But yeah, he might be like a top 5 worst head coaching hire of all time. This dude was a disaster from the beginning. And I think it's incredible because I looked at Dan Campbell and Nick Sirianni, and I looked at even Salah, and I was like, I just don't think these guys are going to make it to the ends of their contracts. I just don't really see it happening. Campbell's a goofball, and Sirianni looks unsure of himself, and Salah, he forgot at the first practice that he was the head coach. And who would have thought that Urban Meyer would be the dude? He should have been fired as soon as after the loss to the Cincinnati. He should have been fired after that game. The fact that he went to a club, to his own bar, and got a lap dance from a random woman instead of being with his team after that loss to Cincinnati, I would have fired him right there. But it goes to show that Shad Khan is one of the more patient owners in the NFL. I think that this next head coach, whoever it's going to be, again, is going to get time. But it is amazing that a guy who is considered one of the more patient owners in the NFL, you were fired after 13 games?
Unbelievable. On a rebuilding roster.
On a rebuilding roster.
One that was, in pretty good shape moving forward. Like, they weren't necessarily behind schedule. Like, this was the Jacksonville job was a pretty, desirable job that Urban Meyer was able to grab. Yeah. I don't like the. Yes, the theory that he did this on purpose to basically rob the Jaguars, it's intriguing because it's fun, and unfortunately it's very plausible just because of the way it's all gone down, because nothing makes sense. But I think this is just in his DNA. I think this is just him. I want a book about the Florida his time in Florida. I want to know everything that he got away with. Like I want to know because I bet you this was mild compared to what he was used to doing, and
Absolutely.
I think he's just been living a privileged life, and I think he's a disgrace. I think he not only ruined his NFL career, he's done in college. I don't see how a college could hire him. Like you're gonna bully a grown man by kicking him and calling him names because before he kicked him, he called him a dipshit, and that's sorry, I don't know the protocol of swearing on this one, but like to call a grown man names and then kick him and then respond to him when he actually stands up for himself. Like, was that him trying to make a joke because he's a kicker, or was that him just being bored and wanting to mess with something? Like, I can't stand that. Since I am really big on the image of what these men put themselves through to basically choose to be a role model for younger generations, for people in this world, and they have the responsibility of teaching these kids how to act, teaching adults how to act and how to behave around other people, and for someone with that responsibility to just ignore it like that and choose to go about it that way, and then to have it to get so much headlines, it's that hurts me that there's people out there that got bullied by him. Like that's just brutal. I can't stand that. I'm so done with him. Like it makes me mad.
This blew my mind. In addition, because also he's a legend in that area. He was a Florida Gators football coach. Like this makes when this hire happened, people were like, I understand the fan base loves Urban Meyer already. The Tim Tebow thing happened. That was that flamed out, right? Terrible. And I was caught. I didn't think the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to be good, but I thought that at least offensively they might run some college schemes that'll get Trevor Lawrence to look good.
Might have got him comfortable moving forward.
Trevor Lawrence looks like my brother playing Madden, running 4 verts and chucking up a jump ball and spamming Y for aggressive catch. That's every single throw I see. He's rolling to his left, stop, chuck, double coverage. I'm like, at a certain point, I look to my dad and I'm like, I think Trevor Lawrence is throwing interceptions to get Urban Meyer fired. And when Trevor Lawrence was a rookie quarterback, right, and was not outspoken at Clemson whatsoever, I think an underrated aspect of this was when James Robinson didn't play, Trevor Lawrence was like, James Robinson is our best player. He needs to play. I don't know why. Very publicly being like, I have no answer for you, because they were like, why isn't James playing? And he's like, I have no idea. It's stupid. It's bad.
That was a big moment for him for going with his teammates.
Urban's going to get a college job. He called all of his assistants losers. I don't know how he did. Who's going to want to work for Urban Meyer? What type of staff is Urban Meyer going to assemble at any major college program? And I don't think you can put him on TV after everything that happened either. I think he's done, and he absolutely should be. If this isn't the worst stint because of the win-loss record, this is the most embarrassing stint an NFL head coach has probably ever had in a 13-week period. I have no idea how you set the Jacksonville Jaguars back when they were as back set as they can be. I don't know how you made a bad situation worse. And what's incredible is he's not a first-time head coach. He's been in big moments before. This isn't somebody who's, a 35-year-old head coach that was a quarterback coach or whatever that they're taking a flyer on and they're seeing if they can work out, like Freddie Kitchens or some of these other guys where it's there's a clear lack of experience here. Urban Meyer doesn't have NFL experience, but he's won national championships in college football. He's coached big teams before. He's supposed to know how to resonate with these younger guys and all these things. He recruits. He clearly speaks the part. He knows what he's supposed to be doing. Yet in the NFL, I think he just came off as a complete and utter control freak that wanted every single aspect of this taken care of, which doesn't surprise me because I'm sure at Florida and Ohio State, he had control over the fan base, over the team, over the athletic director was probably answering to him specifically at Florida, right?
The police force, the FBI.
The NFL doesn't work like that, man. If you start, the fans are going to let you know. And if you're botching the rookie quarterback who people pegged as the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, and then if you go back before then, it's John Elway. Yeah. And he's good. He's throwing all these interceptions, and he looks. Trevor Lawrence out there just straight up looks lost.
He's looks
super talented,
awful.
so he gets away with some throws. But he literally does. He sits hike, and I look at him, and I'm like, he doesn't even know what he's looking at. Yeah. He has no idea.
He's looked so bad. He has 1 touchdown, I think, in the last 4 games.
Yeah,
he's been terrible. And I remember one thing I did say when we were when we were covering the draft. I brought up, everyone obviously, they've talked about Trevor Lawrence being the highest graded quarterback since Andrew Luck and everything. One thing I did point out, I was like, people have to, one little fun fact, he's 6'6". Mm-hmm. If Trevor Lawrence was to succeed, he'd be the first 6'6" quarterback in NFL history to be good. I don't know who the best is. Maybe it's Brock Osweiler. I have no clue. I have no clue who the best 6'6" quarterback in NFL history is.
Yeah.
But Trevor Lawrence looks worse than Brock Osweiler, and he looks worse than Mike Glennon right now. Like,
and the thing is that Urban Meyer is so bad that I'm completely willing to give Trevor Lawrence a complete
absolutely. This is not Trevor Lawrence.
I was just going to ask that.
Like Peyton Packers, you can throw 35 picks. I don't care.
Like, yeah, that's the thing. If those are the things we were hearing about in the news about the work environment there, like, what are we not hearing about? Like, for a rookie quarterback, for any player, but especially rookies coming to the NFL, if that's their environment, that they're in a new situation that's overwhelming already to work in, like, what's going to make him want to be there to put in the extra hours to be better? What's going to make him want to work with coaches if the coaching staff is acting like that? Like, so, you know, I'm sure he hasn't done all the work he's had to be the best he can be this year, and I don't blame. I agree with you. I don't blame him on that. I'm going to give him a pass. I'm going to see how he looks over these last couple of weeks, and then we'll start fresh next year with Trevor Lawrence.
Absolutely.
I don't know how all the financials work, but I hope Urban Meyer doesn't get any more paychecks from Jacksonville. I know that this is like he's going to get his $30 million and everything like that still, because that's unfortunately how things work. But that man went on. I swear to God, like, it's so laughable that it looks planned, like what he did. Like I'm in straight disbelief that the fact that it also didn't come out sooner. I'm shocked. Like the NFL, I thought would, like, if that happened immediately, I thought it would be leaked within a week of things happening. But I think things started rolling along. Again, they were losing too, but. I mean, that was a laughing stock. Quickly, to wrap up the Jacksonville thing, I want to give you each of us give us a name on who you guys think would be a good coach for Jacksonville next year, because they're the first job opening now. And there's going to be other openings. The Bears are going to have an opening. Some other teams, maybe Minnesota that we've heard recently, and like a bunch of other teams. I'm sure there's going to be head coaches galore. New York potentially. I'll throw out my name first. Usually, when teams fire a guy, they go with the complete polar opposite, especially when it's bad and embarrassing. I think Shane Khan's going to want someone who's probably got a lot of NFL experience. I don't know if he's going to take a risk on a coordinator. I would like to see Brian Daboll in Jacksonville because of what he did with Josh Allen, similar body type, similar talent maybe. I think that Daboll probably wouldn't take that job or would get a better one or something like that. I think Doug Peterson in Jacksonville makes a lot of sense. Doug Peterson has his own issues, but he's going to want to go to a place that's going to be patient with him, which Philadelphia was not. I think Jacksonville would be patient with him. I think Jim Schwartz, I don't know if he's a coordinator out there. I don't know if I thought he left when Peterson was let go of Philadelphia. You can bring him back. And again, I'm not the biggest Doug Peterson fan, but Jacksonville's the worst job out there every time. Even I just because from a roster standpoint, what had just happened, the media location, everything. Like, it's not an ideal spot, but I think Doug Peterson's going to want a place that's patient. And I don't think that they're going to go after a first-time head coach again, at least in the NFL. I think they want some more stability there.
Probably.
And I could definitely see Doug Peterson seeing the cap space, they have some nice young players on that team. DJ Chark's good. He started this year, obviously. Laviska Shenault, I'm a fan of Trevor Lawrence still, despite the woes this year. James Robinson, ETN's coming back. They have some players. Josh Allen on the defensive end. It's not like, I would rather have the Jacksonville roster than the New York Giants roster. Like, let's say that. But again, I don't see like this being the most attractive job. So I would say Doug Peterson. But what do you guys think as a potential head coaching candidate for Jacksonville?
Well, I'm gonna throw out somebody that took a historically dysfunctional organization, stabilized them, and was for some reason unceremoniously fired for someone who was just a disaster himself. What about Jim Caldwell?
Yeah.
Why that man? What he did in Detroit, he should not have been fired.
Oh, absolutely not.
I don't understand why he was fired, and there's other guys who I didn't understand. I don't understand why Jack Del Rio should not have lost his job with the Raiders. I thought he was doing a good job. He was fired for someone who was also incompetent. And so while I would like to see, I still am enamored with the idea of taking a young offensive coordinator, putting him with a talented quarterback who is a dual threat, who can do both. But in terms of how dysfunctional Jacksonville has been, which, let's be honest, for the past 15 years, they've been awful. They have like one winning season. They otherwise have been awful and have consistently picked in the top 5. Yep. Jim Caldwell, I would give him a call. I'd let him see if he can steer the ship in the right direction. If Jacksonville can start going 9-7 like Detroit was, that's a friggin' win.
That's beyond a win.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
The way I look at it is same thing. I don't think my guy necessarily would take the job. He might, but I'm not sure he would. But I got to go right back to Josh McDaniels. I think his time is coming again. And look, I'm not saying that he would take it, but I think the Jacksonville is going to want him, is what I'm trying to say. I think they're going to want him because he's got experience and the way he wants to run his playbook. He's been very public about always wanting a bit more of an athletic QB, which Mac Jones still is not. He's shown a lot of promise, but he's not. But I, as a Pats fan, do not want Josh McDaniels to go. I want him to I think he's a great offensive coordinator. Why mess yourself up again by go and possibly failing as a head coach? Just live in your bubble right there and be successful. But I think Jacksonville's going to want him. Like I said, I'm not saying he's the best fit or he's going to go, but I think Jacksonville's going to go after Josh McDaniels.
If a team ever hires Josh McDaniels as a head coach, they should be terminated as a franchise. He should not be a head coach after what he did to Indianapolis.
What he did to Indy. I was going to say, I don't know if another team will give him a chance besides New England. I think when Bill retires, I think he will be offered the New England job.
I'm not sure. The rumblings up
give it to.
So all the talk, the local talk up here, like 2 years ago when what was it? When was it that he did that to Indy? Was that 3 years ago now?
It's 3. It was Andrew Luck's. The year Andrew Luck retired.
It was the year before Andrew Luck retired.
The year before. Yeah. Frank Reich got 1 year with him. Yeah.
Yeah. So when he came back here, all the local talk was that he was definitely going to be the head coach now because they must have made some sort of backroom deal to bring him back last minute that he was going to become it. But now everybody is saying around here now that it's going to be the torch is going to be passed to someone on the lines of like Gerard Mayo or something, like someone that played in the organization that's on the coaching staff now. They're going to basically, build from within from one of the other coaches that isn't McDaniels. I think they're content keeping McDaniels where he is. He might not be content doing that, but like I said, just to reiterate, I think Jacksonville's going to go after McDaniels, not the other way around necessarily. Yeah. Just because I think from their standpoint, he would make a lot of sense to them because
NFL experience already too.
NFL experience. He's a player's coach. He's proven that. So he's gonna be able to gain the trust and the respect of those guys in that locker room, which they need right now. They need someone to
Mac Jones wins Rookie of the Year. He'll be like, "Wow, you got Mac Jones win Rookie of the Year. What can you do with the number 1 overall pick of the same class?"
Exactly. So it's gonna be like the picking is gonna make sense for him. It's just gonna be whether he wants to do it or not.
Yeah, I mean, some other jobs are gonna be out. I think the Chicago job's gonna be out there. I think the Giants have said they're keeping Joe Judge. I don't think they're gonna.
They're going to. The Giants are going. People, y'all need to stop trying to fire these coaches so damn fast. Joe Judge is a good coach. The Giants don't quit on him. He's a good coach.
I think Joe Judge is a good coach, but I just don't see a new general manager. Like, I think if you're pitching the New York Giants for general manager positions, because Dave Gettleman's gone, and you are a new GM candidate, why are you going to pick the Giants when you have to be tied with Joe Judge?
The Giants will tell the GM, we're keeping Joe Judge 1 year. If he doesn't win like 9 games, next year you get to pick your coach.
You get to pick one. Okay, I can see that. Would Joe Judge be kept in a push for a Russell Wilson? Like that's like if a superstar quarterback becomes involved, is Russell Wilson going to play for Joe Judge? He's going to be like, no, I want you to bring over Dan Quinn.
Well, I guess, yeah, if you get a new GM and then they somehow manage to trade for Russell and Russell is saying, I want a new head coach, then obviously, I'm sorry, Joe Judge, but you're going to have to go. This is Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and he's not that good, Joe Judge, that is.
Yeah, he's not that good. But
do you think he's
an offensive coordinator? He's going to have to find a new one next year. I don't know who. I mean, I have a theory. I think Matt Nagy might be the offensive coordinator.
Andrew, what do you think? What are you asking?
I was just going to say, do you think, it's just an interesting question I just came up with, do you think Joe Judge is already either the most respected or established head coach from the Belichick tree outside of Bill O'Brien in the history of his coaching tree? Like, because everyone else from his coaching tree has pretty much flopped right out the gate. Joe Judge hasn't flopped it. He hasn't been great, but he's been stabilizing.
I'd say Vrabel's the best.
Oh, sorry, Vrabel didn't coach for Belichick, though, did he?
I would say Flores is better than. I would say Flores is better than.
Yeah, Flores is the coach.
I forgot. Flores in Miami, 100% Flores. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Defense, and again, Flores has his own issues with how to handle a young quarterback, obviously. But
yes,
I think Flores is probably the best coach we've had in Miami since Sperano.
No, I do agree. I completely forgot about Flores. I do agree with that.
I would say if Vrabel is considered the tree,
he's
not. Is he not? I know he didn't.
They don't consider because he never coached under Bill.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So then I would say it is Flores, but everybody else has been a complete disaster besides Judge and Flores. And I would say Bill O'Brien was probably holding that crown, but then there was like the whole stories about how players hated him and what he said to DeAndre Hopkins, and it was like, well, you're not the best then. Like, absolutely not.
He's just the most like the one who kept his job the longest. That's what he can hold on to.
All those division titles, and yet no, everyone's like, dude, screw Bill O'Brien. Like, this guy just won it out of default because it was the AFC South.
And the roster was loaded. I mean, J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, Deshaun Watson, who we can talk about later. There's some updates on that case. He might never play football again.
Other local little just to leave this subject on is that he's a name that's been thrown out of when Belichick retires around here to bring him back to New England.
Well, there's that book.
I don't think it naturally, but on local radio shows, it's been talked about a couple times. Not like fully serious, but like considering.
Well, that's because I think Seth Wickersham wrote a book about the Brady Belichick divorce or whatever, and Brady was going to stay in New England, was going to tell Bill to go kick rocks somewhere else, maybe the Giants or something like that, and he wanted Bill O'Brien to come back. Which is like absolutely unbelievable because Bill O'Brien's holding the Alabama Christman Tide back, and Bryce Young just won the Heisman, and he's the worst part of that team is Bill O'Brien and his play calling because it's just four birds and what can Bryce Young do? But moving on, unfortunately, the NFL season, and I think really the entire world right now, COVID is obviously never went away, but the new variant has obviously come in and is absolutely not just ravaging through the world right now, but specifically the sports world. I don't know if you have Twitter alerts on like I do for Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport. It seems like every 30 seconds I'm getting an alert with a player who's been placed in health and safety protocols for a positive test. And again, the NFL, majority of the players are vaccinated. A lot of the players are asymptomatic. That's not the debate. But there are a lot of players specifically in the Browns game, in the Rams game, as you saw, people get placed with COVID. And officially, there are some games that have been moved. So the NFL, there was some talk that maybe they were going to pause for a singular season for a week. That didn't end up happening. I think they moved some games to Tuesday and Wednesday. I don't know if you guys are seeing it right now, but they're moving a ton of games as we speak.
So that's just one official while we've been live?
Yeah, there's literally I can do so. Seahawks Rams has been switched to Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh my God, yeah, there it is.
The Vikings and Bears are now the Browns and Raiders are now playing on Monday night. So there's now a Monday night doubleheader. They're playing at 5 p.m. And there's going to be more. The football team versus Philly could be played on Tuesday as well, people are saying. And some games could be delayed as late till Wednesday if they continue. So the NFL is not going to pause like some of them wanted. I think the NFLPA was pushing for daily testing. I saw Myles Garrett tweeted something saying that weekly testing for vaccinated players was a dumb idea. We need to know who has it, who doesn't, regardless of vaccination status and things like that. The NFL is going to do what they do, but they're never going to pause the season or anything like that. But Kendrick, I don't know how to really phrase a question for them. What would you do if you're the NFL commissioner? Because this is getting to a point now, specifically in that Browns game, where it looked like it was going to be played Saturday, where it's clear that there would be a competitive disadvantage because of an outbreak and things of that nature. And this timing could probably not come worse for the NFL because everybody's in the middle of the playoff race. And this NFL season, specifically when you get to the wild cards, there's 8 teams, sometimes even 9 teams combined with both conferences that are all fighting for a playoff spot. And I hate to say it, but there's a chance that COVID has a large effect on what teams make and miss the playoffs, specifically in the teams like the Browns case and some of these other teams, the Washington football team losing Taylor Heineke, the Miami Dolphins losing Jalen Waddle, all these teams trying to get it's not just players are testing, but big name, impactful players who fans are tuning into are missing games. So I understand why the NFL has finally paused, but I guess I'll phrase this, Kendrick. Again, we all know it's sad that that it's ravaging through the NFL right now. But what would you do if you're the NFL commissioner? What are your thoughts on everything going on right now with these game postponements and things of that nature?
First and foremost, Joel said that. Where am I echoing at?
Nowhere.
Not on my end.
Not me.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh, it's gone now though.
Anyways, Joel said that Peyton Manning should be the coach of the Jaguars. I don't know if that's serious or not, but that's interesting.
Peyton Manning can maybe run football operations for the Jaguars.
That'd be funny. That'd be pretty funny to see Peyton as a friggin' head coach, though.
I think Peyton's having too much fun in his basement on Monday nights.
Absolutely. But I guess I don't have too much to say on this just because I like that the NFL is at least postponing games because I thought the fact that they were almost forcing the Browns to go out there with 20 plus players on the COVID reserve list. You talk about the integrity of the game. Where is the integrity when you have one team that's going to be playing basically backups and third stringers because the team starters, every single one is out due to close contact, or alternatively, they literally have COVID. And a lot of these players are testing positive. Jadeveon Clowney tested positive an hour ago, and so then he was also going to be out. So I mean, if I'm the NFL, look, I get it. They don't want to lose their money, and I get it, right? Oh, they're only gonna make a couple hundred. They'll make a few of like 100 million less. I don't even know what the TV deals are ridiculous. I mean, they get paid so much money. It's ridiculous that they would complain about it. And I get it that like it affects the salary cap and all that stuff. And we obviously saw it didn't go up. It went down like 10 million, whatever it was. I think that the NFL should postpone whatever games that they can. And I think it's the best way to it's what's fair, especially if teams, once you start getting to 10 plus players getting COVID, if it's just 2, all right, fine, you make them play. If it's 5, you just make them play. But once you're getting into double digits, that's when the NFL should just cut it off.
And because of the nature of the NFL with positional meetings, when you lose one player, I'll just use the Dolphins for a scenario. Myles Gaskin tests positive, so then all of a sudden Lindsey, Ahmed, and then people are getting called up from the practice squad. So it's not just you're eliminating the starter. They can replace him with a backup. No, in a lot of cases, the backup for that same position also is in quarantine. And then the backup for that guy is also you don't have somebody to play. Someone's playing out of position. And that's when it can get to a disadvantage. And I really thought I didn't think the NFL would postpone games because, again, we were at Friday and they hadn't postponed the Browns game, which was shocking to me considering how many I don't even know who it would have looked like an XFL team for Cleveland.
Probably.
And a huge game against the Raiders who are both competing for huge playoff spots. They put the game on Saturday for a reason. They want people to tune in and watch this competitive game for a playoff spot. So I get why the NFL did it. I'm glad they're taking steps. I really didn't think they would. But Andrew, what do you think about this whole situation right now with it?
I'm glad they did this. I agree. I'm not surprised they didn't like move. I'm less surprised that they did this. Like this is, I think, what they should have done. I would have been more surprised if they had gone ahead and like moved it out to like the whole week off to be like that extra week in the Super Bowl and just have 1 week off. That would have shocked me because, like you said, this is about the time that all the casual fans start to tune in. The ones that they don't get through the first half of the season. And I think that's why like last year, I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying like, like they canceled these games last year and moved them out a week or whatnot. They happened at the beginning of the year when you're still competing with the MLB playoff. Like they weren't losing as much money in the beginning of the year last year as they are, and plus they were already losing money then anyways because a lot of the stadiums were empty. So last year you can't compare it to what they did last year. This year is a whole different animal. The stadiums are full. They are the number one ticket on TV, so they're not going to lose that money. This was the smart thing to do from a business standpoint. From I guess you can say an ethical standpoint. Like it's like I don't know. I don't like using the word ethical in the NFL in the same sentence because I just don't think they go together. But
they don't.
But this was the right thing to do. I think it gives us the best chance to have a legitimate result for the upcoming playoffs. I think
I agree because
it's play around fair.
I hate it when like at the end of the season people are always like, oh, what if this happened? Because this happened and this happened. They would have beat this team and then they wouldn't have gone all the way.
It takes the
fun. Anything up a chance in the NFL, and especially with this, like again, if the matchup was different, I bet if the Browns were playing the Jets, they would have played it. Like it's like these are two teams who are vying for a playoff spot in two major football markets. Vegas and Cleveland isn't a major sports market, but football, the Browns draw a lot of attention to themselves. Yeah, and I understand why they moved it, and I'm glad they did something because traditionally the NFL would do nothing and say tough shit and keep going, which is what they usually say. So I'm glad that didn't happen. Let's talk about a game that was played on Monday night. The Rams played the Cardinals in another absolutely thrilling primetime game. It was a big one because the Cardinals were coming in trying to continue to hold on to that 1 seed in the NFC, trying to prove to everybody that they're the number 1 team in that division and everything of that nature. And if you remember before, towards the beginning of the season, I think the Cardinals blew out the Rams, didn't they?
Yeah, they dominated.
Circled on both teams' calendars, and I think literally the day of the game, the Rams found out that Jalen Ramsey wasn't going to play. Kendrick, I know you tweeted, so the Rams lost, or the Cardinals win, or something like that. I immediately threw a lot of money on spread for the Arizona Cardinals, and that did not work out well for me. Matt Stafford looked like prime Dan Marino, absolutely ludicrous ball placement. Cooper Kupp is maybe the greatest route runner I've seen in a very, very long time. And just overall, Kendrick, do you think that the Rams have figured it out? Are they back to being what everybody thought they would be when they added all these stars? Also, Odell Beckham Jr., 77 yards, a touchdown, 3 straight games with a touchdown now. Everything Rams, do you think they figured it out? And then also on the flip side, the Cardinals, what do you make of the What do you make of them for this performance? Does it hurt their value? Do you think they're okay? What do you think?
Word. So when it comes to the Rams, I thought that I liked a few different things that they did. I like the fact that they didn't necessarily just run away from running the football, and that they actually at least made the attempts to. They gave Sonny Michel over 20 carries. He had like 75 yards or 80 yards, something like that. He had like 4 yards a carry, which is average at this point. It used to be considered good. Now it's just you better average 4 yards a carry, or you're not even a good running back anymore. So I like that they did that. And then I think the thing that I guess people need to understand, we've referenced Madden now twice, which is in this one podcast, which is more than we've done in any other episode. So to bring up another Madden thing, when you sign a player, well, you can trade for one, you can sign one in free agency. They could have a 60 overall. When you call a play, they run that exact route. They might not run it super well, but they're going to run that route. And for the most part where they're going to be. In the NFL, it doesn't work like that. You don't need to go in Madden to an individual player and tell them what route they're going to run. You don't need to call the timeout because they're scrambling back and forth across the formation. And that's what Odell was doing. And so they had to waste timeouts, and they probably had to dumb down their playbook a bit to get him to more understand it. And the thing is that Odell also he hasn't been practicing regularly.
No.
He's been banged up. For like the past 3 years, he's just been banged up, and he's been refusing surgeries, and he's been trying to just heal his body that way. And I don't know if this offseason he will elect to get surgery finally. But I think it's like Odell finally, they have 3 games in or whatever. I think he's been there now a total of 4 weeks. It seemed like he was finally getting the playbook down, and he and Stafford were getting on the same page. Stafford also was banged up a bit. He looked like the healthiest he's been now in probably 2 weeks. He was hitting his deep balls to Jefferson and to Odell, and Cooper Kupp he's up there. My top route runners right now in the NFL, you have Adams, you have Keenan Allen, I have Hunter Renfrow, there's Cooper Kupp. I mean, those guys are just ridiculous with what they do.
Precise.
And the fact Cooper Kupp, I mean, he's gonna probably break almost every receiving record outside of catches, because I don't think he'll catch Michael Thomas's, but he's out to break Calvin Johnson's receiving record for a single season, and touchdown
wise, he's a completely different type of receiver than Calvin was.
He is. He's completely. This guy was at Eastern Washington. And they bring up he has the. Let's be honest, he's a white dude, not used to seeing white receivers dominate the NFL nowadays. But I thought the Rams, they looked really good. I liked that version of them. They protected Stafford. Even if they don't run the ball well, you need to not put it all on Matthew Stafford. And so I liked what I saw there. I thought, they did a good job attacking intermediate, not always looking for the deep shot. So I liked that. For the Cardinals, here's my concern for the Cardinals. One is injuries, especially now they don't have DeAndre Hopkins, and he's probably going to be out until the playoffs. They're hoping he comes back for the playoffs. And I guess my concern is always going to come back to Kyler. Because Kyler, like Lamar, while Kyler he throws the ball great, and he has a beautiful deep ball. He has nice touch. He throws it's not wobbly like Peyton Manning. He throws good balls, but like Lamar, his accuracy just dips at some points, and he can miss really easy throws. His decision making at times, when some of the sacks he takes are concerning. And then one of the things, and this is just more me. I remember I saw a report that part of the reason they brought in guys like J.J. Watt was because they were looking for leadership on the team. They were looking for strong vocal leaders because Kyler's quiet. I don't know if people notice his body language sometimes in these games is very bad. And it looks like he gets visibly frustrated with his teammates when he gets sacked, or if somebody doesn't make the catch, or if they end up dropping the ball. And I think he can grow out of that. He can grow into a better leader. He can learn. He's still young. But I think kudos to the Cardinals for the record that they have. It's great. But I still think, I thought this team was a year away heading into the season. I still think they have some things they need to shore up, because when I look at their remaining schedule, which I don't have it in front of me at the moment. I think I put it down, but I think the Rams are going to win the division. I see them basically winning 3 of their last 4. I think I saw the Cardinals maybe going 2-2 in their final 4, or 1-3.
They get the Lions, Colts, Cowboys, and Seahawks.
Okay, yeah. So that's why I said 2-2, or
2-2.
I have them going 1-3. Because depending
No
on
D-Hop against the Colts is tough.
Yeah, and my thing is that with Seattle, the rivalry games, you never know how it's going to go, and
Russell Wilson can go off.
Yeah, and you never know what Russell's going to look like there. I hand them the Lions, but the other games are a toss-up. And as for the Rams, I think their schedule breaks pretty well. The Ravens could be interesting, but I don't like what I'm seeing from the Ravens at all.
No.
And so I think the Rams are probably going to win the NFC West, and I don't know if they'll have the number 1 seed, but it's they look better than the Cardinals right now.
For sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Look, when I was researching for the show, I was looking at the Rams offense, and the main thing in those 3, you kind of touched on, those 3 losses that they had, they kind of, if you want to call it the start of the skid back in week 8 when they had those 3 straight losses, they were turning the ball over like crazy, and you touched on it. I think that comes down to protecting Stafford. I think we started in Detroit. If he's getting rushed, sometimes he just flings it up as if it's going to get magically into the receiver's hands, and he's not really looking at who's around. He's rushing the play in his head. So I think he had two interceptions in all 3 of those games that they lost, and so I think it comes down to that. They also took 9 sacks in those 3 games. So once again, just going back to the protecting him, I think it comes down to that offensive line. If that offensive line holds up for Stafford, then they have the firepower on that offense to compete with Arizona when they're healthy. If you want to stay in a Super Bowl, against someone like the Chiefs still have them. But do I think it's going to be a blowout? Like no, I think the Rams defense at that point is good enough to keep it a game. So I think if they just do what they need to do and protect Stafford, that's where they're going to win these games is on the line. And look, I think they figured it out. Like I said, they looked a lot better when it comes to the things that dictate or at least point to the offensive line last game. So I liked what I saw there. I agree with just about everything Kendrick said on the Rams. As far as the Cardinals go, I'm not all the one thing that concerns me is the D-Hop injury. That's for sure a big thing. And I get what you're saying about the Kyler Murray leadership thing. I think that's going to come into play more so in the playoffs. And I agree. I don't like what I see from his body language, but I think they're fine, honestly. I think they've even in these losing games, they're still scoring points. They're still getting done what they need to do. AJ Green, if he can keep what he did this past week going and somehow rejuvenate his career, I mean, not forever. I'm talking about just for a couple weeks here.
Yeah,
but if AJ Green can do what he did last week for a couple more games here, then I think they're fine. Because then I think Kirk still plays his role player role. I think Connor's been playing great. He's been running like his first year in Pittsburgh again, and that's been great to see. So I think they've been a bit more balanced now that Edmonds been out. They've been using Connor in a more traditional role, but with passing as well. And I think they're just a bit more balanced now. And so I see that helping Kyler. I see him still making the plays that those athletic plays when he needs to on those long thirds downs if it calls for it. But I thought Kyle, I'm not concerned with the injury from Kyle this year. I think he's moving fine. When I watched that last game, he was running fine. He was able to be agile and whatnot. So I think they'll be fine. Do I think if D-Hop doesn't come back in the playoffs, I'm not sure they have what it takes to make a playoff run. But as far as getting to the playoffs, I think they've done a well enough job this year to kind of, if they go 2-2, they're fine. I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, there'll be a sense to get into the playoffs, but I think if they draw the wrong team, I think it could get ugly though, like that Rams game.
I personally think for the Rams, the 3-game skid, I was curious because Kendrick, we did an episode we were talking about how Stafford, this is what he usually does, right? Bad against the good teams, kills the bad teams. And we all were like, he's going to get his confidence back against Jacksonville. He'll kill Jacksonville. This is a big game. I was looking back at Matt Stafford big games. Is this the biggest win of his career? If it's not the biggest, it's up there.
It depends on if you think his win against Tom Brady in Brady's last year, if you think that was his signature win, then you might take that. But otherwise, for this to give them a chance to win the division, it might be.
Mm-hmm. It was big.
I was and Sean McVay. I've watched some of the tape of the 3 losses, and Stafford took a lot of stacks because he did a lot of stuff off script. Now I think they had to do more off script stuff because Odell was not caught up, and Robert Woods is a massive part of that offense as the receiver. He does everything for them. And the only person who was kind of on script for a little bit was Cooper Kupp. And I think he finally got the thing with Odell clicking, and he's really starting to build something with Van Jefferson on the deep ball. Because Van Jefferson has gone from a player who catches a deep ball every now and then to like every third game he's catching a 65-yard touchdown from Matt Stafford. Sometimes even like every other game he's catching apps. And when you can do that with one play, I mean, that's some special stuff. That's what the Chiefs do. That's what Aaron Rodgers does. That's how you get back into games when you're down. And again, maybe a knock on McVay is, when he's not leading at halftime, it's not good. McVay is the most scripted guy in the NFL. I think he's maybe even more scripted than Bill Belichick is to a certain regard, despite the young quarterback. He talks to the quarterback longer than anybody else does. We heard that with Jared Goff, literally up until the NFL cuts the microphone off.
Yeah.
He's talking to the quarterback. And I've seen mic'd up videos, and he does the same with Stafford, and he respects Stafford way more than he does Goff. He lets the leash go on Stafford way more than he does Goff. This Cardinal game, he didn't let the leash go. He called the same stuff he would call for Jared Goff that he did for Matt Stafford with a sprinkle of big play, right? I think Stafford at the beginning of the year, when he was healthy, when the weather was good, when teams didn't know what really to expect with Stafford in this new offense, he was doing these big plays. And I think McVay sort of like stepped back for a little bit and was like, okay, we got something more here. This isn't Jared Goff. I can let him be loose a little bit. And then Stafford did what Stafford does, throws a couple interceptions, shrinks in front of the moment sometimes. And this was the perfect mix of, nope, we're gonna play in the system. We're going to hit the intermediate routes. We're going to check down if we have to. And with the perfectly timed deep shot. And Stafford's always going to do better with a run game. Stafford in the play action game with a deep shot is up there with anybody else. When he really truly gets the defense to bite on a fake like that, on a run fake, and there's one-on-one coverage going deep. I mean, you saw it. And Stafford, to me, similar to Goff, again, he is a clear upgrade over Jared Goff, talent-wise, mental-wise, everything. Yeah. But similar to Goff, he's a rhythm quarterback. He needs to get in sort of a rhythm. If he's stalling, he's not like Patrick Mahomes who can have 4 straight incompletions and then throw a perfect 50-yard dime, right? He needs like a couple of throws to trust himself, to gain some confidence. And you saw Stafford with the ultimate confidence against the Cardinals. He thought he could make every throw in the book because he quite literally was. When he kind of trotted to the right side of the pocket a little bit, flipped his hips and threw all the way on the left-hand side to Cooper Kupp, essentially on the sideline over the shoulder, I was like, you really cannot throw a better football than that. That was ludicrous. And the Van Jefferson throw was incredible. And even the Odell slant. Odell cooked the guy on the route. Perfect ball placement, right in the stomach. No chance for Odell to take a hit. No chance for Odell to drop the ball. No extension of the arm. It was perfect. Now, the question is Stafford going to do this every game? No. He's not going to do it every game. And I think that he can do it for the rest of the regular season. But, again, big games on the road versus Tampa, on the road against Green Bay. I don't know if that Matthew Stafford will show up. Don't underrate the fact also that game is played in the Dome in Arizona. Perfect conditions for Matt Stafford. Pass rush was not hitting home at all for Arizona. The J.J. Watt obviously isn't with them right now. He was at the beginning of the year when they first played him. I'm not trying to say that the Rams, I didn't learn anything from the Rams. What I did learn was I think Odell was not the problem in Cleveland, that they botched that. That Odell is not, or even if he was the problem, Odell is not washed. Odell is not this receiver with a lost cause that, oh my God, he can't run anymore. He took that dig route 35 yards up the field, and I was like, oh, it's Odell Beckham Jr. I haven't seen that in 3.5 years. Again, we've seen him catch touchdowns, we've seen him do all those things, but that dig route with the speed, run after the catch, you're starting to see what they can do, and he's only going to get better. I think Von Miller's going to get it together for the Rams, but he hasn't been all that great since they acquired him. Again, Von Miller in a big moment, give me him over a lot of other people, right? Third down, passing down an NFC Championship game, you want Von Miller out there with Aaron Donald. Ramsey will be back. So I think the Rams are really good. I'm not ready to put them back in the tier with the Packers and the Buccaneers. I'm just not ready to do that yet. And the problem with the Cardinals is the problem I've had with them the whole time. Their coach. I don't trust Cliff Kingsbury at all in a big moment. I think Cliff Kingsbury has a super talented roster. I think he has a great GM. I think Steve Keim is a fantastic GM. I really do. And I think the only thing that he botched was Rosen, and he admitted that he botched it and got rid of it like that. Most guys don't do that. Nope. Bears fans would have killed for Ryan Pace to do that with Mitch Trubisky after 2 years, 4 years, right? I would have killed for the Dolphins to do that for half of the quarterbacks that they've had instead of giving them 5 years and 6 years to figure it out. We know after 1 year it's not going to work, and it's paying off because Kyler's infinitely better despite some of his flaws. That decision because, again, Kyler threw that interception in the red zone. I mean, the Cardinals for a large part of the game outplayed the Rams or played just as well as the Rams. It was truly back and forth, except Kyler was turning the ball over. Stafford wasn't, and that's how the NFL works. But Cliff, to throw the deep shot on 3rd and 1, then run on 4th and 1 to get absolutely stuffed by Aaron Donald, I was like, what are you calling right now? That that was like Sean McVay from start to finish took you to the cleaners, bro. Like you don't. And I think he has a great staff. I think Joseph is a fantastic defensive coordinator. I think he could be a head coach next year. And their entire staff is great. Their front office is great. But the specific part about Cliff is I don't see Cliff out coaching somebody in an NFC Championship game. Do you see Cliff Kingsbury out coaching Matt LaFleur? No, he's not going to out coach Sean McVay on most nights. He's not going to out coach Bruce Arians on most nights. I don't know if he can out coach Mike McCarthy. I don't know if he can. Or it's his time management is just as bad as Mike McCarthy, and his play calling at times is just as bad. I understand he's in love with the spread offense, but James Conner was arguably your best offensive weapon that night.
He has been for a couple weeks now.
And him the ball. And then you're like, oh, well, now everybody knows what we're trying to do here. And then, of course, Aaron Donald's going to read that shit like scripture at church and absolutely knock your socks off, and you're not going to have any chance of that play. And Cliff kind of just sits back and oh, they're a really good team. And yeah, they are a really good team, but you got to do better. This isn't just it can't be every time you lose. It's like, oh, we played a really good team today, man. Every time I see Cliff Kingsbury in a losing press conference, there's zero accountability. There's no, I got to do better. I got to not call the most obvious crap in the world on 4th and 1. I got to recognize
it's the NFL. A lot of them are good teams.
Hats off to Aaron Donald. Isn't he so good? Isn't he bro, you got to coach better. You got to realize that this is who you're playing against, especially in a divisional game. And for them not to take advantage of things like no Jalen Ramsey, they can win out. And they can host the NFC Championship game or the second round. Tom Brady would beat Cliff Kingsbury. Aaron Rodgers is going to beat Cliff Kingsbury. That's just how I view it
He would get more respect from players if he did come out and say, this is where I messed up. This is where I'm going to own. This is instead of sitting there and trying to praise the guys on both his team and the other guy, they hear, guess what? Those players hear that from everybody in their circle every day. They don't need it from their coach. They need their coach to push them to be better.
And we all know, Cliff, we all know Aaron Donald's good. We all know Aaron's a good team. You're supposed to be better. You're supposed to be better. You're at home. That's how you found that out before that the best corner in the game isn't playing. And you can't figure it out. You're just like, oh no, we're good here. And again, Hopkins had a bad drop. Kyler had a bad pick in the red zone. It's not all on Cliff, right? But specifically at the end of the game, I cannot get that 3rd and 1, 20-yard shot play, and then a 4th and 1 run into Aaron Donald's face. I can't. I cannot.
It was tough to watch. It was tough to watch.
Especially kick it to the outside, man. Have Kyler run a read option. Do anything. Don't run it into Aaron Donald on 4th and 1 of the biggest moment of the game because you know who's showing up. Arguably the greatest defensive player of all time. And I love James Conner. He's losing that matchup 10 out of 10 times.
That's what the greats do. That's what the greats do. They show up in that one moment. That's why they're memorable, because those moments are memorable, not the whole season. They show up when they need to. And that's why they're there.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to be ready for it.
Let's give, for the final segment of today's show, we've reached an hour. Let's give, and we can do a deeper dive on this because I want to do a deep dive on the game that I'm looking at. Out of all the games, it can be a Tuesday night game now, a Wednesday night game.
No.
Oh, which game?
Skip this. Skip this. No, I don't. I want to talk Bills Bucks.
Bills Bucks. Yeah. Okay, Bills Bucks. Kendrick, go ahead. Take the floor on Bills Bucks.
Okay. So I mean the big thing. So all in all, the takeaways from the Bills Bucks. The Buccaneers, watching that game, the Buccaneers can be beat. They are not that outstanding dominant team. They weren't even last year, really, until the playoffs. And even then, they try and make the argument that they were just facing teams that they just blitzed the hell out of, and their defensive front was just overwhelming. If you look at the Bucs this season, every good team, if you want to, whatever you consider the good team, the best teams they faced, they've all taken them down to the wire. So the best teams I just put down, it's the Cowboys, the Saints, Washington, Rams, Colts, Bills, Patriots, and you can throw in the Eagles if you want. I mean, they're just a game under 500, like they're right around there, they're average. All of these teams either beat them or lost by 1 score. And in many cases, it was they lost by 3 or even less than 3 in the Patriots case. They have a Bills quality to them. They beat up on horrible teams, but against good teams, they either they play down to competition, they play up. I don't know what it is. It just seems like against any team, especially that has a decent offensive line, any team that has a decent to good offensive line, they really struggle against. And the Bills, their offensive line's not good at all, but in the second half, they march all the way back to the point where they probably should have ended it with a touchdown, but obviously you debate what happened with Diggs in the end zone. So for the Bucks, I mean, hey, credit to Tom Brady. This dude's gonna win MVP.
Yeah,
it's insane to me. I think his only competition really would be Stafford if the Rams finish out high and Stafford beats him out.
If Stafford won out, maybe.
If Stafford wins out and he tops his touchdowns, because he's like right there, his stats are very comparable.
Mm-hmm.
If he can do that, maybe they'll give it to him because it's Stafford and the Rams, that story. But Brady's probably gonna win it.
I think people would vote for Cup before Stafford. Honestly, I do. I'm not saying I'm just saying
the player of the year at least.
Yeah, but I just think people kind of already have their minds made up on Stafford, and I don't know. I don't see him ever winning the MVP. That's just a side point.
Rodgers should win it, but they're not going to give it to him.
No, but sorry to interrupt. It was just a side point.
Yeah, but and so I like the Bucks. Like watching the game, I'm just like, okay, the Bucks can be beat. Like the Packers, I maybe the Packers wouldn't, but like if they could draw maybe anybody else. I mean, if they drew Dallas again, I mean, I don't know. Dallas, maybe not the way that the offense is playing now, but like that defense is much improved. They could maybe force some more turnovers than they did last time. Like, who knows? But then as for the
Tampa played Los Angeles. Los Angeles beat them the first time. That's closer than people think.
Not only did they beat them, the Rams undressed the Buccaneers and made them look average at best.
I enjoyed that game.
If they draw the Rams, especially, look out! I'm taking the Rams to beat the Bucs again. As for the Bills need to be very careful. I think the Bills are an off-season again away because I think they have some holes that they didn't realize they had. They need to fix their offensive line. I like one player on their offensive line, really. I like their left tackle. And even then, he's not an A-plus left tackle. He's always graded out as basically a B-minus tackle. I think they need to overhaul that offensive line, and they need to fix this run game because they're going to enter this area that the Carolina did with Cam Newton, which is he's their primary running back. And then after maybe 5 years, he's going to be beaten down and he's not going to look the same.
Yeah.
Josh Allen should be a runner who is used for short yardage, or like if it's fourth quarter, you need like 2 touchdowns. It's 3rd and 5. And you run him that way, and you do QB power. He should not be your leading rusher. He should not have the most carries. He should not have the most yards.
You made too much of a financial investment too.
They put too much money into this dude, and I wasn't
10 years.
And I wasn't a fan of the contract when they gave it to him. I said make him play out this year. I want to see him do it one more time to make sure last year wasn't a fluke. And I don't think it is a fluke. Allen's numbers are very comparable to what he did last year. Although he at times you can see he misses his throws high. His thing is always far. He always overthrows dudes. The Bills need to be careful about this investment in Josh Allen. They cannot run him into the ground the way that they basically did against the Bucks, because he took a lot of punishment in that game. So they need to be careful.
Walking boot.
Yeah, I don't think the Bills are a Super Bowl team this year. I just don't. I don't think their offense is good enough. It is too Allen-centric. They need to go into the offseason, fix that O-line, maybe get another running back, but like I'm fine with their running backs. But they need to protect Allen from even himself if they have to.
I think it's fair to question the contract because it was definitely possible that last year was a fluke for Allen because he was playing those games with no one in the stands, and he showed signs early that he's got some mental instability when it comes to facing critique or in high-pressure situations. He showed in his first few years that was a weakness for him. So the fact that he had his best year when there was no fans around him, there was quiet stadium, and you could hear everything, like there definitely should have been some pause to say, well, let's see it when things are normal again. So I 100% agree with you there. Look, they got it together in the second half. They made it a game. The first half was exactly kind of what I expected to happen because I think ever since that Pats game, they lost confidence in themselves in that Pats game. I expected them to come out and get crushed because I thought they were going to do exactly what the Bills do every year when they, typically it comes early. Like usually they go through like the first 6 weeks and they're pushing for the division and they're looking good and then they crumble and they disappear. Like that's their MO typically. This year they hung it out, but they always have that staple loss to where they can't seem to pull it back together. And God, that loss to the Pats was just embarrassing.
And
And Jacksonville. So, but that's what I'm saying. So, when come the first half, when they looked like that, I said, yeah, this adds up. This looks right. So I was impressed that they turned it around in the second half. I haven't fully decided if that was more so Tampa Bay taking the foot off the pedal and playing neat, like just playing safe, and then the Bills taking advantage. But still, kudos to the Bills for adjusting and taking advantage of that, because when there's going to be times when teams take the foot off the pedal even for a play, and you got to capitalize, and they capitalize to make it a game. So I agree. I don't think the Bills are going to go far here. I just don't think they have the makeup to be a Super Bowl contender. But I think they're showing signs of, at least, like I said, in the past, they would have crumbled completely out of that game, and they turned it around in the second half. So I think they're moving in the right direction for, like you said, next year could be the year that they put it all together. I think it's very possible.
Next year could be the year they put it together, but in terms of this year, the Buffalo Bills mentality is bad.
Yes.
They are soft mentally.
Look at McDermott after the pass loss. See,
McDermott was so emotional after he's like, let's not give Bill Belichick any credit here. Bro, he threw the ball 5 times in your building and he ran you out of it. No credit, nothing. Oh, it's on me. I appreciate the accountability. Like, I should have coached better. But, bro, you sold out the stadium of Bills fans. We got dudes jumping through tables and blizzards to watch you get annihilated. They
tailgated since Thursday. They were tailgating for like 3 days. They had that party.
Did the reporter phrase the question the right way? Aren't you guys embarrassed? No. But for him to be like, oh, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to remember. Bro, remember the fact that Ramondre Stevenson, who the Patriots benched 4 weeks ago, carried you 25 yards down the field. Remember that, bro. In your stadium.
It wasn't.
Watch it. Remember that. I don't remember what the Bills reporter asks you, man. And he was like, oh, we only gave up 14 points. I don't give how many. You were playing in a hurricane. Who cares how many points you gave up? You stacked every guy in the box, and they still beat your ass. Like, it wasn't even close.
And you know what happens when the team runs the entire game? The clock runs. So you only have so many times to give up points.
And I hate the Patriots, man. I'm a Dolphins fan. I know what this is like, man. The mental thing where it's like, you can't be.
We can still be friends, Alex. It's okay.
Bill Belichick literally was like, we know what we're going to do. We're going to run it down your throat. Damian Harris was running the ball so hard, he pulled a hamstring mid-game. They put the backup in. Brandon Bolden took somebody for 25 yards. He was cut last year. I
don't think that was the to be honest, I don't think the plan was to only throw the ball 3 times in that game for Bill. But do I think at halftime Bill was like, I'm having too much fun doing this. I'm gonna keep
Bill was probably laughing.
I think
easy.
He was having the ball, and I think he was loving the aspect of, I'm gonna beat you just by running the ball, and I'm gonna just go down in history for that.
And you can tell how much it bothered them. They were we only gave up 14 points. Okay?
I seriously questioned if he believed that they lost. Like, there was a time in that press conference where I thought McDermott might have legitimately thought they won the game. Like, the way he was talking, I was like, you've lost your mind.
And he was like, these guys were appalled that they were asking, like, oh, don't you feel bad? Oh, dude, you were at home in a blizzard. This is Buffalo territory. This is where you are supposed to thrive. Your fan base is losing it. And it was like complete. It was like a boxing match that you got knocked down in the first.
It was a fair question. I have no problem with the question. Do I think it could have been worded differently to avoid the conference?
No, yes. You're not supposed to say, like, do you feel embarrassed?
Yeah, but the basis of the question was fair, and they could have answered it.
I hated when he said, "Oh, I'll remember that." Like,
and what's that?
You should remember getting dragged for 25 yards from a dude who got in the NFL a week ago.
Yeah, what does that mean by what does he mean by that? Is he just not going to talk to him ever? Like, what?
Don't talk to WBZ Buffalo ever again, man. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's great. And then they come out in the first half, and it's just like, oh, we're back to normal, completely annihilate you. The Bills came back. Congrats. But to me, this is just what Arians does. You know, he's a cocktails at 5 type of guy. They're in warrior mode. They won the Super Bowl last year. They have all these veterans. They know how good they are. They know. Tom knows how good this team is. And again, this is not Tom Brady's way. He doesn't want to blow the game at the end. But I think, were they on a little bit of cruise control? Probably. They were probably like, this team is mentally not at the same level as us.
Do I think Tom was a little annoyed that he had to start trying again in that last 10 minutes? I do.
I wrote out the entire game that Buffalo was going to not lose that game. No.
Yeah.
And again, this is what Buffalo does. And I've been saying this for weeks. When their offense stalls, Dable says, we're either going to run with Josh Allen or we're chucking the ball up to Diggs for a PI. Stephon Diggs is a top 5 route runner in the NFL. He doesn't catch anything contested. Nothing.
Yeah.
0. And again, he's one of the best in the NFL at getting open, so I'm not calling him bad or anything. He's an incredible wide receiver. And when he's open, he catches. He's got great hands. But if you're throwing jump balls up to Stephon Diggs, it's not happening. And Josh Allen as much as he was so good last year. You mentioned the empty stadium thing. And again, I wasn't even thinking about this, but Josh Allen is 6'5", 6'6", cannon arm, is always going to be the combine guy, is always going to be the empty gym guy that everyone looks at and is like, oh, this guy is just on a different level physically. You put some fans in there, you put some emotion in it. Josh Allen is not level-headed during football games. You look at Tom Brady, he's like this the whole time. He score a touchdown, don't care. He's a little bit fired up sometimes when he takes a late hit. When he slid for that first down, he gets fired up. Like, I get that. Josh Allen's talking crap to defenders, waving goodbye to people.
He wears it all on his sleeve.
Emotional coach. And when you're an emotional team and an emotional coach and you get bullied, you're the ultimate loser at that point. You've lost mentally and you've lost physically after you've propped up both, right? And Josh Allen is a good player. He's not as bad as he was his first 2 seasons. Absolutely not. But he's regressed to the mean a little bit. Josh Allen is more accurate than he was at the beginning of his career. He's still not an accurate quarterback. He still has horrible ball placement. He still throws every ball high. And again, he knows he's adjusted. It's not like horribly. It's not like, an uncatchable ball anymore. But some of those throws, again, were just completely misses. That dudes were wide open, that he just overthrew, threw too much on it or whatever. And what Stephon Diggs grabbed, was that an absolute PI? 100%. Like, that was a PI. I don't think anybody will debate that. But when you go through the whole season trying to get PIs, when your offense stalls in big moments, the refs know this. They've refed you 3-4 times. They know what you're looking for. The whistle gets tighter in these big games towards the end of the season. And I hate to say it. Do you really think you're getting that call against Tom Brady on a national television game? Buffalo. You've seen this story before. You really think you're getting that call? Really? No, you're not.
It would have been too tacky anyways.
Like, when there was no flag throw, I wasn't like, what? Oh my God. Like, I was like, oh yeah, of course.
It was a physical play. It was a football play. Like, it would have been too. I would have been mad if that's how the game ended. It would have been felt wrong.
If they threw it, I would have been like, yep, that's a PI. But again, that's not a call. You
throw the wall short.
And I swear to God, and again, half the Bills' plays end with dudes with their arms like this. You can't really see me. With their arms like out like this, looking at a referee. Half the Bills' plays end that way, and that's not how you're going to win a Super Bowl. You're not going to do it like that. And they need a new O-line. I like Zach Moss. I like Matt Breida. I think they could use a more veteran back that knows what holes are like. Because, again, I think Buffalo's O-line is bad, but I think sometimes Zach Moss has and Breida, I know for a fact, does not have great vision. Breida's really good that when he sees the hole and he's super fast and he can get there, he can, but he's not good at identifying the hole. I mean, the Dolphins were the worst run team in the league last year, and he couldn't get on the field for the Dolphins. Like, there's a reason why, and again, Zach Moss isn't great. Devin Singletary is a nice player. I'm not saying they need to, go invest or trade for a Saquon or anything like that, but get a veteran in there that knows what they're doing, that I can identify.
Yeah, go get Le'Veon Bell, man. Go get Le'Veon Bell. He's out there. He'll probably play for $1 million. Go get Le'Veon Bell.
But the thing is
but what about Latavius Murray?
It's tough for Buffalo to do this.
Adrian Peterson,
your
why
quarterback's
not?
already making $45 million a year. So before you address the offensive line, before you address the running backs, again, I like Cole Beasley. Emmanuel Sanders is not that good this year. They still don't have a true second wide receiver to Stephon Diggs. Cole Beasley is nice, but he's got 2 routes on the route tree, a slant and an out.
And he's streaky.
But he's elite. He's great at those things. He's a slot guy. That's all you can ask him to do. You can't ask him to do anything more than that. They need another over-the-top guy because I don't think using Stephon Diggs as an over-the-top guy helps us reach his full potential. I don't think that's what it is. But again, it's going to be tough for them because they don't have that much money. They just don't, because Josh Allen's getting paid $45 million. They pay both of their safeties. They're going to have to pay Ed Oliver soon. That's got to be a decision they're going to make. Are they not going to do that? They have to. There's no choice, right? They got to pay Dawson Knox potentially. They got to go revisit a contract with Cole Beasley. There's going to be some tough decisions to be made. And while they might be an offseason away to maybe establishing those holes, the Patriots are only going to get better.
It's amazing the entitlement they felt from 1 year.
What movie out there for Buffalo to make that puts them over New England? There's not.
Bills are 7-6.
And I'm a Dolphins fan and I'm biased, but God forbid they can just figure it out once and they be just as good as them.
Look, the Pats are ahead of schedule, and everybody's
talking about how good Buffalo is, how bad the rest of the division is. They're separated by 1 win. Buffalo Bills have 1 more win than the Miami Dolphins do, and the Dolphins roster is a lot worse. A lot worse.
So you could go ahead and say that the Dolphins have been better this year because they're doing more with less.
I would say that, except every time we play Buffalo, I shut off the game before the
Maybe
I would say that, but again, I love going at Buffalo, but Buffalo can just respond to me by we literally play you out every time.
Yeah, bro. Josh Allen's been
my new thing is they only look good against the Dolphins. They only look good against the Dolphins.
Yeah.
So much pain. But in terms of Tampa, I think they're in warrior mode. Like, they know what they are.
Yeah.
They're not scared of anybody, and people are more scared of them than they're scared of. Again, that's not Tom's way to lift the foot off the gas, but it's certainly Bruce Arians' way. I know he was like, oh, okay. And again, they really do like Leonard Fournette, and towards the end of that game, Buffalo really locked down and was like, we're going to try to make a comeback here. And again, because they had just gotten blown out by New England, in their last 5 quarters, they were essentially physically and mentally not competitive with the other team. So that's why all of a sudden Sean McDermott was like, or 6 quarters, it was a whole first half. Sean McDermott, I'm sure, gave a rah-rah speech in the halftime and was like, yo, we got to wake up. We got to do something. This is their season. They come back, they look for the PI, and at the end of the game, like all Buffalo games end, the other team's celebrating, and Buffalo's standing and looking at the ref.
And at the end of his speech, he said, it's all your fault.
No, it's not. He's quarterback $45 million after 1 year. He's regressed to the mean. He still doesn't know what ball placement is. He's got no clue. He still has no idea how to use his feet properly. And now you're running him. Now you're like, our run game is so bad, we got to use this guy. And then he leaves in a walking boot. Like,
it's so funny because that's what they should have did against the Pats.
And here's the thing. They're playing a really dangerous game here. They have Carolina next. Carolina's a horrible team. Not a good team. No Christian McCaffrey. Cam's coming in and out of the lineup. He's washed. He's done.
Yeah.
Cam against Buffalo last year for New England looked good. Probably should have beat them twice when you look at it, right? I think he didn't. He beat them once, and then he was a fumble away from beating them twice. I'm not saying Carolina's going to beat Buffalo, but if Buffalo keeps this mentality that they got going, that they're being done wrong, and it's not us, it's them, and all this, Carolina might surprise you. And if you lose to Carolina, they're going to lose to New England, and then the best you can go is 9-8. And if Buffalo goes 9-8 and misses the playoffs, who's going to get held responsible? Because they went from Super Bowl contention and Josh Allen as MVP co-favorites with Patrick Mahomes to 9-8 and no playoffs. That is, and the Patriots just win the division and maybe have the 1 seed. I mean, something's going to happen there. And the quarterback getting $45 million a year after 1 good season, which ended in 0 accolades. 0. No MVP award, no passing title, no touchdown title, no completion title, no Super Bowl. Nothing. You gave him just as much money, almost as much money as Patrick Mahomes, who won an MVP, Super Bowl MVP, touchdown record, passing records, all these things.
Well,
and
by that logic, Joe Flacco deserved his deal.
He's like, why isn't he accurate? Why? Everyone's like, wait, Josh Allen's not accurate anymore? Yeah, man, he's not accurate. He was never accurate. He isn't. He's got the huge arm, and when the receivers can catch up to the ball and get it, it's great. And Buffalo's a good team. I think they'll make the playoffs. I think they'll beat Carolina, lose to New England, then take care of business and get in 10-7. But they're losing in the first round. God forbid probably. New England gets drawn with Buffalo in the first round in New England. I mean, like, don't show up. No tailgating, Bills fans. Pack the tables up. Don't show up because it's over. It's over.
That'll be them. Bill will embarrass.
If they play the Chiefs again, I mean, what are we talking about?
We might actually see Bill smile if that happened.
Bill actually might be laughing like the joke. Watching a playoff game with how emotionally charged up the Bills are, and Bill's just level-headed, like, we're just going to continue to run. I can't even imagine. Again, I wasn't here last week to talk about that Buffalo New England game. I can't even imagine the players on that field. Sean McDermott was calling the right thing. Stack the box. They literally put like 9 out of the dudes on the box, man coverage, 1 safety who was essentially playing linebacker, and they still averaged 8 yards a carry. Like, I can't even imagine getting tossed around like that. Like, it's going to do something, but I don't like their mentality, man. All right. For the last thing, 1 game and why. What's the game you're looking for, Kendrick? And why is that your favorite game of the week?
Lord, I don't even. What games are even being played? I don't even know what's being played.
That's a fair question.
That's like a great. Like, I think we should probably.
Apparently, every game is going to be played. It's just going to be played at different times. And as I'm looking around, you can see all these Twitter notifications of people getting put on the list.
I mean, I guess I get. Well, I guess the day it doesn't matter. The games will be the games. I'll say probably Patriots Colts. Yep. I really want to see Patriots Colts. I think that's going to be
the same answer for me as well.
I think that's going to be a run the football. Who can run the football better kind of deal there.
Mm-hmm. No Damian Harris.
Me too. I think that clears up the game plan a little bit, honestly. So as a Pats fan, that was obviously going to be my answer too. I was looking for another game just to try to be different, but you guys both agree, so I'm just going to go with it.
Patriots Colts, great game.
I think it's a big day for Mac Jones because they've had a bye week, so have the Colts. They both had bye weeks. Frank Wright has a very good record against Bill Belichick, going all the way back to being the offensive coordinator against the Super Bowl. It's going to be an interesting game. It's in the Dome, so I think Carson will look okay. Again, I don't think he's going to look great because of how good this Patriots defense is. If the Colts can run the ball, they got a good chance. If the Colts can really do it. But I think, again, with an extra week to prepare, Bill knows what the Colts are trying to do. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, I don't think the Colts are going to allow New England to run the ball, or they're going to try their hardest. Again, they're going to stack the box and be like, you know what, Mac Jones, you are beating us. And that is going to be a big moment for Mac Jones. I think he's going to see a lot of man coverage. I'm not in love with the Colts secondary. He's kind of building a connection with Kendrick Bourne, who's a
they force turnovers, though. That Colts defense forces a lot of turnovers.
But I think they're going to be like, you know what, Mac Jones, they're going to live and die by Mac Jones throwing the football. And I think Bill is going to – this isn't Buffalo. The Colts have a lot better defense, specifically run defense, than Buffalo does.
Yeah.
And Darius Leonard is a whole different beast than any of the linebackers that Buffalo have. So
I agree.
And with no Damian Harris, I like Ramondre Stevenson a lot. I just don't see him having 22 carries for 135 yards against this Colts defense. I think it's going to be on Mac Jones. I'm not saying he can't do it. And if he doesn't do it, I don't think people should immediately come out and be like, see, Mac Jones is horrible. It's a tough ask. The Colts are a very good team, one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now, and playing with an elite amount of confidence off a bye week at home. So it's going to be tough. And they honestly have to play for more than the Patriots do. Patriots, I think, know they're going to get this division locked up. They're not losing to Buffalo next week. They're going to make the playoffs. Colts are fighting for their playoffs lives. They don't know if they're going to catch Tennessee. So Mac Jones could have a big day. And if Mac Jones has 3 touchdowns, no picks, 220 yards against the Indianapolis Colts, I think he would lock up Rookie of the Year with that game.
Yeah. So my final word here is going to be that, the bye week is going to give Bill an edge for sure. Frank Reich's great, but I do think it gives Bill an edge. And like you said, he knows the Colts are mostly going to stack the box, and people don't expect Mac Jones to go out there and win them the game. I don't think you're going to see Mac Jones throwing 20, 30-yard passes, but they're stacking the box. I think he's going to find a lot of open man-to-man coverage in the middle of the field, and that's right. Kendrick Bourne, his most trusted receiver right now, is kind of money. Like he can make those quick cuts in man-to-man coverage, and Mac can find him on those quick slants, and Bourne can do something with it. Even if they're only getting 7-8 yards at a time, you're talking first downs all over the place. And he mixed in Stevenson, they could very easily control the clock, control the game, and then the defense, obviously, the defense forces turnovers too. This is going to be a good game. It's going to be interesting to see how both teams game plan for this.
If Mac Jones walked out with a stat line 27 for 33 or 34, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, I'd be like, you killed it. Rookie of the year.
Yeah. 100%.
Waddle's going to miss this week because of COVID, so I don't know if he'll break the rookie reception record. And Chase had a great start, and I know he caught 2 touchdowns last game, but he's not been the same player since the beginning of the year.
He's not a boom or bust guy. He's a big play guy now. Yeah. He's not a consistent chain mover.
And I don't think I think Waddle only had a chance if the Dolphins won out and he broke the rookie reception record. I don't think. First of all, I don't even know if either of those things are going to happen. But with him missing a game this week, the rookie reception record looks like it's going to be tough unless he literally gets 10 catches a game, which he could. But again, they might not against the Titans defense, Patriots defense, and Saints defense. Those are the 3 defenses Miami has to face after this week. I don't see Waddle getting 15 catches a game or whatever. So I think if Mac Jones has a good performance, I think it could be the opposite effect. Because, again, they beat Buffalo, but everyone was like, look how they didn't use Mac Jones, even though they didn't have to. Look how they didn't use Mac Jones. It could be the opposite. I think Mac Jones could, in theory, win this one for New England, and that would really boost his chances of just locking down Rookie of the Year if he doesn't have it already. It looks like we've reached an hour and a half, so that's going to be it for today's episode, or this week's episode of the Belly Up Football Podcast. Thank you, Kendrick and Andrew, for joining me. Before I let you go, don't forget to check out bellyupsports.com for all of your sports content needs, and check out the Belly Up pregame starting Sunday, 8 a.m., taking you all the way up till kickoff of at least some of the games that will be played on Sunday. Enjoy your Saturday football as well. And then I guess your Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday football. So we'll have a lot to talk about next week with pretty much a game every week. It's going to feel like the basketball season all of a sudden for the NFL. But again, thank you guys for joining me. And thank you guys for watching. And we'll see you all next week.
Later.
Thanks. Have a good night.